back to the details about the shooter. New details, in fact, about his potential ties to Islamic extremists. CNN's chief national security correspondent, Jim Sciutto, joining me live now from Washington with this just in news. Tell me what you found out.
Well, actually, CNN has learned that Michael Zehaf-Bibeau, the alleged Canadian shooter, had connections with other known Canadian extremists, and they include a man named Hasbullah Yousafzai. He was a Vancouver resident who was charged in July for traveling to Syria to join a terrorist group. He is still at large. The importance of this is this adds credence to the idea that the motivation for yesterday's deadly shooting was Islamic extremism. And I can tell you now that U.S. authorities actually are now frantically looking for connections between Bibeau and other Americans, perhaps known extremists here or others that they didn't know about, either by communications on the internet, by cell phone communications, but they're also looking at his travel to see if Bibeau traveled to the U.S. But the headline here, that he had known connections, known ties to known Canadian extremists, Islamic extremists, including one who was charged with traveling to Syria to join a terrorist group there.
So I don't know if this is, it's hard to phrase this question. I'm going to try the best I can, Jim, with you. This is a guy who had a very troubled past. He was a drug user. He had a criminal record that spans at least a decade. How much of this do authorities think it was a troubled guy looking for a cause? He'd have done it under any cause. Or how much of this is he was radicalized and others got him to do this?
Well, it's a fair question. It's something that they frankly won't have a hard answer to yet. But I will tell you this. In my experience, looking at foreign recruits for terrorist groups in the Middle East, that the profile is often very similar. And you do find young men like this who had troubled lives, perhaps run-ins with the law, issues with alcoholism, etc. I'm not saying this is true of all of them, but there is a common profile here of young men who run into problems like that, and they find an identity, a cause with Islamic extremism. I tell you, just a few weeks ago, when we were the first to report that an American who went to fight and die for ISIS in Syria, he was a Minnesota man, similar as well. He had a long rap sheet, lots of run-ins with the law. He was not raised Islamic, or he was not raised a Muslim. He converted to Islam, and then he joined the terror fight. That's not to say that anybody who converts to Islam by any means is a candidate for this, but when you look at that profile, you often have troubled young men who find this cause as a new identity, a new definition, and they jump in. They jump in and go and risk their lives to join.